these things change as we go, and so that's why I wanted to call it out. But if we go back to this 1960 stuff, the military, according to the story, got really interested, and they put a lot of effort into researching this mystery satellite, and they commissioned a special committee to gather information on it, and those findings have never been released.
Wow.
Nobody's ever seen them. After...
Well, what are they hiding?
That's a good question.
Something.
After tracking this, people are saying was the Black Knight satellite in 1960 for 3 weeks, it again disappeared. But during that time, the strange transmissions, the LDEs, the long delay echoes, were being picked up. We're going to move just slightly forward in 1960 to September 3rd. There is a tracking camera at Grumman Aircraft Corporation. It was at their Long Island factory or facility, and it said that it took a photo of the Black Knight satellite. This is where things get a little hinky to me. Is people on the ground said they had been seeing it for about 2 weeks. They could make it out. It was red and glowing and moving east to west.
Wow. There it goes, changing its orbit again.
The speed was described as being about 3 times as normal. And its shape, like I talked about a minute ago, it's changed again in this. It is now about 19 feet long and weighs 32,000 pounds.
I guess my question on that, right, is that just how? At what point do you just say, well, obviously it's something different you guys saw?
Wouldn't you think?
I think at some point you say, that doesn't sound anything like this. I don't know what your basis for claiming it's the Black Knight satellite is. It doesn't have any kind of basic...
It's never been reported to glow red. It's never been reported to move east to west.
Right. Yeah. So I think at some point on a lot of stuff like this, and I know we are inclined to do that, and I want to do it again, is just say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's clearly not part of the Black Knight satellite.
I'm on board. I'm inclined to throw that one out.
Oh, clearly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because going from a near polar orbit to suddenly being in an equatorial orbit, that's amazing.
Not only that, but to have changed size and color so drastically and speed.
It's a transformer.
Yeah, it's clearly not actually that. It's not an Autobot.
Yeah, if you're moving,
it's a Decepticon.
Maybe.
Ooh. Decepticons. Yeah, if you're moving 3 times as fast, that means also you're a lot lower you're a lot lower down. Because that's how you keep from dropping into the gravity well of the planet is to speed up. The closer you get, the faster you have to go.
Yep, and move farther out, you can go slower.
So, this thing apparently can move itself around pretty good.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just something totally different.
Yeah, it could be. We're going to go to some more strange things that are attributed to the Black Knight satellite.
Okay.
Do either of you know who Gordon Cooper is?
Yeah.
No.
Who is he, Joe?
Mercury astronaut.
Yes,
yeah.
He was. He was on Mercury 9. For anybody who doesn't know, the Mercury program was putting men in capsules and shooting them into space, and they were circling the globe and then splashing back down into the ocean to figure out how to survive in space.
Oh, and by the way, if you want to read a good book on this subject, The Right Stuff by Tom Wolfe.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great book.
I remember watching the movie as a kid, but I never read the book.
Oh, you got to read the book. The book is much better.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Yeah, but if you want to know everything you wanted to know about the Mercury program and then some, read this book. It's awesome.
Awesome. Okay. Well, it's funny. Who was the first man in space?
It was Alan Shepard.
Yeah. So one of the things, Cooper's first attempted launch, they scrubbed it. He was in the cockpit. He's ready to go, and then they had to scrub it for some technical reason. But
every single launch NASA's attempted in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
they do a lot of that. Yeah.
Who was it? It was Shepard?
Yeah, Alan Shepard, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. I can't remember, but Cooper got into the cockpit and he found a plunger from Shepard. That's because when he had gone up, evidently there was an issue with the plumbing of his toilet system. And so as a joke, he had given him a plunger to take with him into space. But that didn't actually end up going into space because that mission got scrubbed. But when Cooper finally did get into space, he orbited the Earth 22 times before he came back down.
That's cool.
On trip 15 around the globe, that's where the strangeness comes in.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. What?
Cooper reported a greenish UFO to NASA, and the people at the tracking station of NASA also saw this on his readouts and displays. And it's important to point out, Cooper wasn't afraid to report UFOs. He evidently reported a couple of UFO sightings because he was a test pilot, and he would see things and he would call it a UFO because he didn't know what it was.
Because it was by definition an unidentified flying object.
Absolutely.
It's not what we would consider today to be a space alien ship.
Yeah, no.
No, but he would report those things. So it's credible that he would have reported this, and according to the story, it's corroborated by these, I think it's up to 100 people that were in the NASA tracking station in Australia that saw it on their screens.
So in other words, the Black Knight satellite had once again changed its orbit, and now it's going west to east again?
Oh, because of the Shepard incident? Well,
No, because
Cooper.
the Cooper incident.
or Cooper incident?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. At least in this writing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was orbiting together. It just means that he saw it go past him, right?
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
So it could be that it was still orbiting north-south.
Okay, so...
But it had
was
never been
by
described as having this greenish glow that he described.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and was
nobody
it-
had been that close to it before.
Yeah, true
Maybe.
that. Was it coming towards him or moving past him or
I don't
following
know.
behind him?
I don't know. Again, it's one of those things where the accounting of this is just so brief and it's just splashed, and then that's it. You get the flash, but you don't get any of the follow-up details. Now, some of this stuff we will be going into in more detail in the theory section. So before anybody, is screaming at us what's going on, just be aware we're going to come back to some of this stuff. But I just want
Circle
to walk
back
through.
around.
Yeah, we're going to have to circle back to it.
Yeah, a couple times probably.
Yeah. Another newspaper article that we have from 1969 said that the Apollo 10 astronauts, and those would be Young, Cernan, and Stafford, were the first to actually film a extraterrestrial beacon,
Okay.
which was called the Monolith.
Yeah.
It's a small version of what you saw in the movie or read about in the book 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Resurrect Dead on Jupiter. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Kubrick? No? Okay. Sorry.
Yep, no. But yeah, so it's from 2001. Like I said, the Apollo 10 crew evidently filmed it from all angles, but they were.
I did a quick Google search, and that footage doesn't exist on the internet somewhere.
I know,
which is too
surprisingly,
bad.
or depending on your perspective, not surprisingly.
Yeah, depending.
Yep, the first cosmonaut in space. Let's see, that was Yuri Gagarin. Is that how you would say that?
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
He sighted the monolith in 1961, and then Alan Shepard, who we were talking about earlier, evidently he is supposedly had reported it as well. But I say that with a lot of hesitance. I don't know. Again, this is just the way the story is told and you see it. If we move then to 1973. Again, that's a little farther skip in time. A researcher, his name is Duncan Lunan. He decided that he wanted to try to figure out what the LDE transmissions that were being picked up meant, what the deal was.
And he did an amazing job, I must say.
He really did. He went to the records of the transmissions and he analyzed them. And what he determined was that they were from another race. And they included a star chart to, and I know I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, the Boötes, Epsilon Boötes.
I'm not sure. I just call it booties myself.
But I know booties isn't correct.
No.
It's a double star in the Boötes constellation. It's got that, what is the little double dot over the E?
Umlaut.
Umlaut. It's got the umlaut on the second O, which makes it so hard to pronounce.
Yeah.
But here's how he figures this out, is he figured this out by plotting the delay time of the signal against the order in which the echoes were received.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said he did. Now, what that means, I don't have the scientific backing to explain, but based on that research, he said the signals were 12,600 years old.
Well, they would have had, I mean, it would be not so hard to do the math on that, right? I mean, realistically, if you can say, yeah, it's coming from that star, the science behind saying it's coming from there, notwithstanding, right? But to figure out how long it would have taken from something to get there from here.
But how he figured out the star chart, because he says it included, I don't know if it was coordinates or a star chart, but that's how he figured out what constellation and what double star.
So he decrypted the alien language.
And I don't know how many light years this is from us.
A long ways.
I'd love to hear are there recordings
of LDEs?
Yeah, on the internet of these specific LEDs.
These, I don't think these ones would be out there. The ones that Lunan was looking at, because this is in 1973.
Yeah.
But LDEs still happen, and I imagine that they're on the internet. I didn't think to look to listen to them because, from what I understand, LDEs are repeats of signals from Earth.
They're just echoes.
So that's why it's a little weird to me that he found this extraterrestrial location called out. But I don't know.
I was I was pondering that too. It seems a little fantastic, but it's my one thing is that if you're a satellite and you just don't have the gumption to just broadcast a message directly to planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to send a message. What a clever way to do it is to receive a radio signal and then retransmit it back, but vary the interval by which you transmit it back.
To transmit.